You ever wish your brain had an off switch? Just one click, and the noise would stop. Not forever, just long enough for you to breathe without thinking about what you said 3 years ago, or what someone might be thinking of you right now. You lie there at night, staring at the ceiling, your mind replaying every possible version of the same moment. The things you should have said, the things you wish you didn't. You tell yourself to stop. You say, "It's fine. It doesn't matter." But your brain doesn't listen. It just whispers back, "What if you're wrong?" And the worst part, you don't even know why you do it. Why you keep overthinking everything. Every word, every feeling, every silence. It's like your mind won't let you live in peace. And you're tired of it. So let's talk about it. Because there's a real reason you can't stop overthinking. And it's not what you think it is. Do you ever lie awake at night, staring at the ceiling, replaying the same thought again and again? Like your brain is stuck on a loop? You try to stop, but the moment you tell yourself, "Don't think about it," that thought gets louder. You overanalyze every word you say, every message you sent, every possible thing you might have done wrong. And no matter how much logic you throw at it, your mind just won't let go. It's exhausting, isn't it? To be trapped inside a brain that never shuts up. You try to move on, but your mind keeps dragging you back. You try to relax, but it tells you there's something you forgot to fix. You try to sleep, but it whispers, "What if you're making a mistake?" It's like your thoughts are 1,000 tabs open in your head. And no matter how many you close, another one pops up saying, "Are you sure?" Here's the truth that nobody really tells you. Overthinking isn't about thinking too much. It's about trying to stay safe. Your brain learned that if you think enough, you can avoid pain. If you analyze everything, you'll never be caught off guard. If you predict every possible outcome, you'll be ready for anything. But the reality is, you're not preparing anymore. You're protecting. And that's different. Overthinking is self-protection disguised as logic. It's your mind's way of saying, "I don't trust the world enough to just be." Somewhere in your past, maybe as a kid, maybe during heartbreak, maybe the first time someone made you feel small, you learned that mistakes weren't allowed. You learned that being unprepared meant pain. So now, you replay every scenario, not because you want to, but because your brain is trying to keep you safe. The problem? Safety doesn't feel like peace. It feels like control, and control feels like overthinking. Think about it. When was the last time you actually felt present? Not planning, not fixing, not predicting, just existing. Most people can't even remember. Because the modern world runs on anxiety. We're wired to check, compare, analyze, optimize. Every app you open reminds you you're behind. Every scroll tells you what you should be doing. And slowly, your mind forgets what silence feels like. You're not even thinking for clarity anymore. You're thinking to fill the quiet. Because silence, to an overthinker, is terrifying. In silence, you might have to face what you're really feeling. So instead, you keep busy, not with action, but with analysis. You overthink your text messages. You rehearse conversations that haven't even happened. You plan your responses to people you might never meet. You imagine entire futures that will never exist. And somewhere deep down, you know it's madness. But you can't stop, because stopping means surrendering control. And your brain equates surrender with danger. Let's go deeper. When you were younger, maybe people punished you for mistakes. Maybe you were made to feel that failure meant rejection. So now, you crave certainty. You crave guarantees. You need to know everything before it happens. Because unpredictability feels like emotional chaos. That's why overthinkers are rarely impulsive. They don't jump. They calculate the fall first. But here's the cruel part. Life never gives you a guarantee. No matter how much you think, you'll never think your way into peace. You'll think yourself into paralysis. Have you ever noticed that overthinking feels productive? You sit there, head full of what ifs, and it feels like effort. You think you're solving something, but when you're done, nothing's solved. You're just mentally exhausted. You've spent all your energy fighting invisible battles. Because overthinking is mental running, you're sprinting through your head trying to find an exit, but the door was never locked. You could leave anytime, but you don't. Because the door leads to uncertainty, and that's scarier than staying stuck. There's a part of you that believes if you stop thinking, you'll lose control of your life. But here's the twist. You're not in control right now. Your fear is. Fear is driving your thoughts. Fear of rejection. Fear of regret. Fear of not being enough. Fear of being wrong. fear of losing people you love, fear of repeating pain, and fear loves logic. It loves to make you think that if you can just figure it all out, you can stop the pain before it starts. But fear forgets something important. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. Overthinking isn't your personality. It's your nervous system on overdrive. Your body's trying to keep you alert, even when there's no real threat. So you scroll, analyze, worry, predict, all to avoid sitting with the uncertainty of not knowing. But peace doesn't come from knowing. Peace comes from allowing the unknown, allowing yourself not to have the answer. Here's the paradox. You think you overthink because you care too much, but really, you overthink because you don't trust that you'll be okay if things go wrong. You don't trust your own resilience. You don't trust that you can survive disappointment. You don't trust that you'll be loved even if you fail. So you keep rewriting the story before it even begins. And maybe you learn that from people who couldn't give you emotional safety, people who made you feel like being perfect was the only way to deserve peace. So now you chase perfection through logic, through planning, through thought. But peace doesn't come from perfection. It comes from permission. Permission to be human, to be wrong, not to have it figured out, to let things be messy. Sometimes your mind needs to break before it learns how to rest. Overthinking is what happens when your soul is screaming for rest, but your ego keeps saying, "Not yet, I can fix it." You can't fix overthinking by thinking harder. You fix it by feeling safer. When your nervous system feels safe, your mind doesn't need to control everything. When your heart feels secure, your brain doesn't need to predict every ending. That's why healing overthinking isn't about logic. It's about safety. You heal when you start trusting your body again, when you start noticing your breath, when you stop judging every emotion as a problem to solve, when you let sadness exist without trying to explain it, when you let joy happen without worrying it'll leave. That's peace. Not the absence of thought, but the presence of trust. Here's a truth most people miss. You don't stop overthinking by doing less. You stop overthinking by feeling more. Because overthinking is what happens when you feel too little. When you've gone numb to your intuition. When you don't listen to your body's yes and no. You overthink because you stop trusting the quiet voice inside. The one that whispers, "You already know." That voice doesn't shout, it waits. And it can only be heard when the noise stops. Start small. The next time your mind spirals, pause. Feel your feet on the ground. Feel your breath enter and leave your chest. Say to yourself, "I'm safe, even if I don't have all the answers." Watch what happens. The noise softens. The urgency fades. You begin to remember, the world isn't ending. That's what overthinking steals from you, your sense of safety. But safety was never outside you. It's been inside you all along. You've been running your whole life, not from the world, but from your own uncertainty. It's time to stop running. You can't predict your way into peace. You can only surrender your way into it. Let go of the idea that you must understand everything before you live it. You can't think your way into trust. You have to feel your way into it. And sometimes that means falling. Sometimes that means not knowing. Sometimes it means saying, "I don't know what happens next." And that's okay. That's not a weakness. That's freedom. The real reason you keep overthinking is because you're scared of what might happen if you stop. But what if nothing bad happens? What if you finally feel calm? What if you discover that silence isn't dangerous? It's sacred. You've built a whole world inside your head. But life doesn't happen there. It happens here, in your body, in your breath, in the space between thoughts. Someday, you'll look back and realize that the things you were afraid to let go of were never really holding you up. You were holding them. And the moment you loosened your grip, the world didn't collapse. It opened. So stop fighting your mind. It's just scared. Thank you for trying to protect yourself. Then gently tell it, "We're safe now." And when you do, you'll feel something you haven't felt in a long time. Quiet. Not empty. Quiet. Peaceful quiet. That's the sound of trust returning home.